a gusty, blusterous day. The showers will, as I say, become more widespread, certainly from late morning onwards. We'll see some over the Midlands and eastern England. Always, though, most frequent in the west, just zipping through on that brisk and gusty wind, making it feel cooler than the numbers would suggest. Temperatures actually close to average for the time of year, but certainly feeling fresher with the wind when the showers come along, and there'll be more of them on Saturday too. Again, that mixture of bright spells and heavy showers. We may start with some across the southeast on Saturday morning, but again, most of the showers in the west developing more widely through the day. Again, the odd rumble of thunder. Again, temperatures close to average, and then things likely to turn wet and very windy by the time we get to Sunday. Goodbye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Road users should remain cautious crossing the A9 Dornoch Bridge as strong winds affect driving conditions. There's a significant accident on the M6 northbound between junctions 31A and 32 causing delays. Expect around 30 minutes of congestion as one lane remains closed. In Hampshire, lane closures are on the M27 westbound exit slip at junction 8, with resolutions expected by 9:15 this evening. And on the trains, cross-country services are experiencing disruptions between Nuneaton and Leicester, and between Audley End and Cambridge. Great Northern trains are also suspended at Old Street. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, after we came off air last night, we heard the desperate news that my friend Charlie Kirk had died of that rifle shot wound. We'll debate the reactions to it. We'll also ask, is anything actually going to change for the better? Well, he's gone. Mandelson has gone. This time it surely must be a case of 3 strikes and you're out. But I wonder, not only does this bring into question the judgment of the Prime Minister, but I also think he's beginning to look rather vulnerable within his own parliamentary party. And we're going to have a GB News Debanking exclusive where a decent, long-time business in Scotland, frankly, closed down by a bank for no reason whatsoever. I know we've had these stories before, but we're going to keep showing them. We need change to banking regulation. Before all of that, let's get the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nigel, thank you very much. The top stories. The FBI has released images of a person of interest in the killing of Charlie Kirk. Officials say that the suspect appears to be of college age. 30-year-old conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot while giving a talk at Utah Valley University. Eyewitnesses say a figure on a rooftop fired a single round, hitting him in the neck. Kirk was rushed to hospital by his security team, but 2 hours later, the US president announced Kirk had died of his injuries. Former presidents and world leaders have condemned the killing. Today marks the anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks that shocked the world. Vigils have been held across the globe, including in the US and the UK, to remember the victims and heroes from that fatal day. US President Donald Trump addressed a memorial service in Arlington to mark the day.
We will support our troops, we will protect our families, and we will preserve the American way of life for every future generation. We will build taller, grow stronger, fight harder, and soar higher. And together we will go forward as one people with one heart, one fate, one flag, and one glorious destiny under Almighty God. May God bless the memories of those who died and the heroes who fought and the soldiers who still stand watch. May God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Israel's president met the Prime Minister in Downing Street yesterday, a day after the deadly strike on Qatar's capital Doha, which has drawn up much criticism. There have been rumours of tensions between Sir Keir Starmer and the Israeli president during their meeting. Isaac Herzog sat down with GB News' Martin Daubeny, a warning the following contains some flashing images.
We reject the idea of a unilateral declaration of recognizing a Palestinian state because it's dangerous. It will flare up emotions. It won't bring out any hostage, and we won't help any Palestinian. On the contrary, I demand from world leaders, including the British government, to stand firm together and say to Hamas, we won't talk to any Palestinian, any one of you, until you release the hostages. They'll see that it may work better.
James Roscoe has been appointed Britain's interim ambassador to the United States. It's after Lord Mandelson was sacked after emails revealed the true depth of his relationship with paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. It comes just days after the ambassador himself admitted further embarrassing emails were likely to emerge, including one in which he called Epstein his best pal. The Foreign Office says the correspondence was materially different to what was known when he was appointed. Sir Keir Starmer told MPs yesterday he still had confidence in Mandelson, but today in the Commons, his withdrawal was confirmed. Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson and ex-Commons leader Lucy Powell look set to fight it out for Labour's deputy leadership as the first stage of the contest draws to a close. After nominations closed at 5 p.m. today, the third candidate, backbencher Belle Ribeiro Addy, said she had not secured the 80 MP nominations required to make it to the second round. In the last few moments, we learned that former Commons leader Lucy Powell has secured enough MP nominations to go head-to-head with the Education Secretary in Labour's deputy leadership race. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, it's desperate news as I was travelling home last night after the show to hear that Charlie Kirk had died. I'd known him for 10 years. I'd spent a lot of time with him. I'd spoken at Turning Point conferences. I rarely went to Mar-a-Lago when Charlie wasn't around or somewhere on the scene. So, yeah, you know, personally, I felt it very, very strongly indeed. And he was, without doubt, the most dynamic young Republican in America, had a following of many, many millions. And indeed, his following in this country was increasing, especially after his performance at the Oxford Union last month. He knew the dangers of not having sensible debate. And here he was, and you'll see this clip, and it is, I think, somewhat prophetic.
I go around universities and have challenging conversations, and because that's what is so important to our country is to find our disagreements respectfully, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.
I've never seen someone do this.
Well, it's a growing trend because people like me are facing violence, assaults. The left. Yes, the campus Antifa. I've been stormed out of restaurants. I've been assaulted publicly, multiple death threats.
Okay, so what's your goal in all this?
There's more people that agree with me than some people would actually believe, and they come out of the woodwork when I do stuff like this. We record all of it so that we put on the internet so people can see these ideas collide. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens.
Well, there was Charlie, aware very much of the danger that he was in. And he mentioned Antifa there, a violent organisation who, for some reason, are allowed to operate in this country wearing masks. It's quite beyond me why that's the case. So the shooter, what do we know? Well, we're told, intelligence tells us that the shooter was linked to Antifa and had a very different view on trans rights to Charlie Kirk. This is a picture of the suspect. The FBI have released this picture and put up a $100,000 reward for anybody giving information that leads to an arrest. Now, the reactions have been many and varied. President Trump, who clearly was quite emotionally touched by this, he was very close to Charlie Kirk, has announced today that posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom will be given. But it seems that some on the left, even when somebody has been assassinated, can't say a single nice thing. Here was author Nels Abbey on ITV at breakfast this morning.
Yeah. I'll say, can I just say something? I don't agree he was a Cicero for the TikTok age. I believe he was a David Duke for the TikTok age. And I have some degree...
Can you just remind us who David Duke
was?
is?
The former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
Well, I mean, absolutely appalling. You know, he's comparing someone who's just been murdered to the leader of the Ku Klux Klan. The same in the European Parliament. They were in session today. They were asked for a minute's silence. Have a look at the reaction.
Rhetoric that incites violence. Please stand with me in reflection and prayer in his honor, and I yield the rest of my time for a moment of silence.
Herr Kollege Reimers, wir haben angesprochen, Sie wissen, dass die Präsidentin hat eine Schweigeminute abgelegt. Wir fahren da fort. Wir kommen zum Bericht von Herrn
Shut up! A minute's silence for somebody who'd been murdered, interrupted by booing and jeering. I spoke in the House of Commons today and I said, look, you know, it is really important, imperative that all of us in public life use sensible language. Don't use endless historical analogies. Don't say things that can genuinely be insightful. I spoke about this across the spectrum, but it does strike me that there are some on the hard left who just, frankly, couldn't care less about what they do. They believe they have a moral superiority. Will anything change after the death of Charlie Kirk? I don't think so. Maybe you disagree with me. Tweet #Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. I'm joined in the studio by Elizabeth Pipco, former Republican Party spokesman and a friend like myself of now the late Charlie Kirk. I'm joined by Lord Maurice Glasman, regular on this show, as of course is Sir Michael Ellis, former Attorney General. But first, I'm going to go down the line to Michael Knowles, host of the Michael Knowles Show on the Daily Wire. Michael, I was just talking there about the mixed reactions. You know, the President clearly very moved by the death of Charlie Kirk, but it seems some on the left, even though the man's dead, can't say a nice word.
And not merely on social media. If you look at the left-wing cable news outlets, the response does not merit, frankly, even discussion as far as I'm concerned today. It's so appalling. But it without question reflects that they have not taken a good lesson from this. I think everyone has concluded that this event is hitting them much more strongly than they might have expected. You know, for us, he was a personal friend of ours of many years. For many, many millions of people, they were admirers of him, and he had many enemies too. And one thing that all of us seem to agree on is that this guy would have been president. There is no exaggeration to say that he is the most significant political figure of our generation. And he had a bright, bright future ahead of him. At least we thought so. But of course, one is not guaranteed another day. And what was so astounding about his significance is he didn't hold public office. He never held public office. We all expected him to hold the highest office, and yet he had greater influence than any actual office holder, other than perhaps the President of the United States. He was extraordinarily effective, and they killed him. And this, I think, is where something will change. And I don't know if it will change for the better. It might change for the worse. So, of course, we hope it will be for the better. But this guy did not pass laws. He did not hold office. He did not wield concrete political power. He showed up to public spaces to talk it out. That's all he wanted to do, was debate and talk it out in an extraordinarily gracious and generous way. There was no more mainstream and generous person in public life. And they killed him for it. And I think that deep sense of injustice strikes us, and a deep sense of dread, because in a battle, whether we're talking about a physical battle or a rhetorical battle, one's opponents get a say. And if Charlie's opponents will not tolerate talking out ideas and having a respectful debate, then what comes next is frightening.
Yeah, I'm frightened by it too. Michael, beautifully put. Thank you for joining us live down the line. Well, Elizabeth, you knew Charlie. I mean, it is desperately sad, but it's, and there was some, and let's be fair, the abuse goes both ways. There were some saying there needs to be retribution for this, so there were people on the right behaving appallingly, some of them this morning. America feels in a very bad place.
I agree. I think America's been in a bad place for some time, honestly, and I think people like Charlie Kirk were at the forefront of pointing that out. That's almost why this is even more painful. He was there from day one saying we need to have these conversations because if we stop, that's when we have the violence. He was warning not the Republican side, but also the other side. Everybody. He was one of very few people on our side who wanted to have those conversations. I know a lot of people, influencers, media commentators, even politicians who don't want to talk to those who disagree with them. Charlie wanted to. He liked it. He enjoyed it. He knew what could come of that, the benefit that can come of that. And I think that's why it hurts so much. He was one of the few that was willing to have those conversations, and they killed him anyway.
You see, I mean, the old Republican Party, the sort of Mitt Romney Republican Party, was doing terribly with young voters.
Yes.
Doing terribly with people of sort of Hispanic backgrounds. And I do feel, I mean, Trump was different, he was fresh, but I do feel that Charlie actually, I mean, as was said there by Michael Knowles, it's astonishing to think that somebody who'd never held elected office, was only 31 years old, is being talked about in this way. But he was really important, wasn't he?
He was extremely important, more so probably than politicians, because he wasn't one of them, because he proved that without getting elected, you can still sway people's minds. You can go on the internet in 2025, just tell your personal story. Build an audience, sway voters, encourage young people to get closer to God, to build families, to change their political opinions. Who can do that in 2025? It's actually not politicians. It's individuals like Charlie.
Very interesting, isn't it? Morris, this is not the first time we've seen these things. We've had MPs killed, of course, in our country. We had in the 60s, a spate of assassinations in America. Even in this country today, a Labour MP's office in Sunderland was completely burnt out. But somehow, this incident has become really very, very big and made us all thoughtful, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, and I extend my sympathies to you, Nigel, and to you, Elizabeth. I didn't know him, so... Yeah. And the fact that he had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old child, this is horrid. It's really horrid. And, it speaks to a problem on my side. I'm from the left completely. And there's an aspect, Antifa, I would say, are the opposite. They are fascist. They want to use violence, and they do use violence to intimidate, to threaten, all of this. And America obviously has the guns. Look, we're blessed, Nigel, with our country, we don't have guns. But
you can get guns.
Yeah, but in America there's this undercurrent, and what he was doing, as you said, this is the point, he was full of faith, he was full of ideas, he was full of how to engage. It's a great relief that he had that faith, because I think his wife can at least take comfort in eternal glory.
Something. Yeah,
but this is absolutely out of order. And what you said earlier, this reluctance to engage, to denounce others before you've started talking. I mean, I get completely slaughtered, for coming on here and talk. I know. This is just the reality, and I do it as a point of honour and a point of principle, that there can be no future for a country that calm, engage in the conversation.
Those sound words, Mike.
I agree completely. And of course, I think this is a generational moment, and not in a good way. You alluded, Nigel, to the 1960s, and this reminds me on the arc of history of the Bobby Kennedy assassination, in the sense that at that moment felt for the left of that era in the late 1960s as though there was a generational loss of a leader for them, and it was an iconic moment. Here, I think, there's a generational loss of a future leader for the right in America. And that's why I think this is such a significant moment. He was only 31 years of age, had a young family, but he'd made such a powerful impact. He was clearly a highly charismatic young man, but actually he had proven his worth to millions of followers. To have had his life extinguished in this horrific, violent, public way, it's the exact opposite of what he was standing for, because what he stood for, going to these campuses, and he went to Oxford as well, I think Cambridge as well,
he was there,
last month. What he particularly wanted to focus on was tolerance of other people's views, is my understanding. He wanted to listen to other people's views.
He wanted to have vigorous debate.
And debate them. Whereas so much at the moment is an intolerance for other people's views. And it's like, I don't want to hear it, you're obnoxious, you're a fascist, if you don't agree with me, you're evil.
And it was interesting, Elizabeth, because he went for the universities, and that actually is where much of this intolerance has been taught over the course of the last couple of decades. So he was actually very brave, and he was giving other students the ability to stand up and speak freely and engage in debate. He really was fighting back against the woke mind virus in so many ways. Is there anyone that can fill his place?
I mean, honestly, no. No one will ever beat Charlie Kirk. I mean, truly, he deserves all the credit in the world, and he should be spoken of as if he was this individual that will never be replaced, because he won't be. At the same time, people will follow in his footsteps. They will hopefully be more likely to listen to his words now, maybe after he's gone, than they were otherwise. I know a lot of people on the left who reached out to me and actually said decent things and said, I'm going to watch a Charlie Kirk clip for the first time. I had a friend who told me I'm going to read the Constitution for the first time.
Yeah, that's good.
That's something good. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes the best people are only appreciated once they're gone.
Yeah.
I think it's an iconic moment.
Yeah, no, it really, really is. Well, it has overshadowed a very big political story, which is that Mandy's gone. Lord Mandelson has gone as British ambassador over there in Washington. It's the third time he's been removed from senior public office. And I'm joined in the studio tonight by Lord Glasman, who warned, yes, he warned the Prime Minister that something bad was going to happen. We'll hear from him in just a moment.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this was the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, I asked you in a somewhat depressed tone, will anything change? Jonathan says, no, nothing will change. The fanatical left thrives on dogmatic ideals. They claim inclusion, yet exclude and vilify anyone who disagrees. Their agenda is hate. A good man lost his life, and for what? For saying men are men, women are women, or citing crime statistics honestly. How did we get here? Jeff says, Nigel, of course nothing will change. The right look to the left and say they are wrong because they are mistaken. The left look to the right and say they are wrong because they are evil. I absolutely agree with that 100%. It's as if some on the left genuinely feel they have a moral superiority. They actually believe they're better human beings than those with different points of view. And history teaches us that when human beings think about others in that way, it's a bad and dangerous place. So, Mandy's gone, the Prime Minister. Let's see the Prime Minister yesterday saying we have every confidence in our ambassador.
Mr. Speaker, let me start by saying the victims of Epstein are the forefront of our minds. He was a despicable criminal who committed the most heinous crimes and destroyed the lives of so many women and girls. The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
It's like the old joke, isn't it? The chairman of the football club. We have every confidence in the manager, and he's gone the next day. Now, Maurice Glasman's here in the studio with me, and he sent a memo to the Prime Minister back in January warning that this was going to be a bad appointment. This is what he said. I hope it embarrasses him. The brutal truth is that the vast majority of people I met consider our Labour government to be a front organisation for paedophiles and Pakistani rape gangs. They consider our position on the Chagos Islands an example of progressive idiocy, and our appointment of Peter Mandelson as unnecessary provocation. They think our army has gone to hell and our country is overwhelmed by legal and illegal migrants. Well, Maurice, you're here.
Hi.
You're here. Tell us what happened here.
Well, you were there, by the way.
Part of it, in a way.
That wasn't a direct memo to the Prime Minister. It was a confidential note. And
well, it's got to us.
I don't know how on earth it got out there.
It was very straightforward.
But if you remember, Nigel, when we were there, in fact, I just want to pay tribute to you for a second. We had a brief conversation, Nigel and I, when I was there. I said, look, we're both patriots, we're both here, and I want to just stress that Nigel was extremely generous in introducing me to people and in facilitating a constructive relationship of our government with the United States, which was the primary goal. What took me aback when I arrived in Maga Square, what I call Maga Square, was this notion that that was the idea of what our government was like. It had to be challenged, it had to be opposed. I stress, and Peter Manson's role in Northern Ireland was honourable. He was a very skilled negotiator. He was capable. I mean, in many ways, it's interesting to be here. For me, Nigel and Peter Manson are the two biggest figures in politics of the last 40 years. Manson created New Labour. He selected Blair and Brown when they were backbenchers at the Parliamentary Party. He showed discipline, he showed diligence, he showed incredible tenacity to do basically a hostile takeover of the party, rebrand it as New Labour, globalisation, technology, the EU, all of this. So he's got to be given credit for being a huge historical figure. But the reality is there were demons in him, and avarice was one, his love of money was one, and his love of celebrity was another. So I do want to pay tribute to his enormous impact on our politics. Yeah.
No doubt
and
about
achievement.
that.
And achievement.
But what, I mean, he'd said very rude things about Trump and the administration, but it was this, you know, I mean, what I don't get, Maurice, about then and now is surely if you're going for that job, and Michael may know more than we do, but you have to be vetted to a very high degree.
Yeah.
Are you nervous about that?
I wasn't particularly. It was raised on the US side. They kept on saying that there were security checks, and
the FBI must have been looking.
Trump might refuse him, but he didn't. Look, Peter Mandelson was sent to the United States to secure a trade deal, and he did it. Okay, so let's be straightforward about that. But once he'd done it, it was time to go. But what you can remember, and what I was trying to report back, was the extraordinary level of hostility to the Labour government in MAGA Square itself, and that had to be addressed.
And the perception of this country.
I mean, exactly, that our country, I don't think they have a correct impression of our country.
No,
I think it's
at the moment it's very, very negative.
And skewed. But, you know, one of his incredible abilities was he went over in all that, and I think he negotiated this deal very well, and he managed to build the relationship.
Maurice, I saw him firsthand as a European Commissioner.
Last week you were with him.
Yeah, I was with him last week on the terrace. He gave me gin and tonic. It wasn't bad of him, was it? You know. But I saw him as a European Commissioner, very, very capable. Extraordinary thing here, Michael, is this. After the Epstein conviction, he's still writing to him. He's still saying all sorts of things like, what you've been done for, you would never have been done for in the UK, which I found bizarre.
Why is that? Yeah.
I didn't understand that at all. But he also...
I don't recognise that.
But also the financial links. I mean, surely our vetting or the FBI looking at this, surely they'd have known these things.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's up to us, not the Americans, because he's a British appointment, and the FBI, no doubt, will take an interest if necessary, but in any appointments that come to the United States. But I think what this actually says, it says more about Keir Starmer than it says about Peter Mandelson, because the Prime Minister made this appointment. It's not as though this was not in the public domain. Much of this stuff about the links was already in the public domain, is my understanding. This is particularly embarrassing because you've got the Trump state visit next week, and we've now lost the British ambassador in Washington who would have been part of those arrangements. And I think the only reason this has happened, because as you just showed your viewers yesterday, Starmer was praising him to the rooftops and supporting Lord Mandelson, but I think he's now gone partly because Kemi Badenoch skewered the Prime Minister yesterday in PMQs, partly because some more emails were coming out apparently, and partly because, you know, Labour MPs wanted him out.
I felt he had to go. Yesterday, when the Prime Minister was addressing the Commons, it was complete silence. Stony-faced. I didn't see a single Labour MP or Minister nod in support of what the Prime Minister said. I thought this is really, really interesting. And, of course, today we were learning who the nominees were going to be the Deputy Leader. The first question the press would have asked them is, do you want to keep Mandelson in place? The answer would have been no from both of them. But, Maurice, I just sort of want to end this segment by saying this to you. It seems to me that the Labour backbenches are now very out of love with the Prime Minister.
Yeah, I mean, steps need to be taken for sure. But this story with Mandelson is...
I'm talking about Keir Starmer here now.
Yeah, I get that.
He's got a problem.
Well, it's symbolically and in real terms, Nigel, this is the end of New Labour. Mandelson was the symbol of it. He's gone, and the Prime Minister's future depends on whether he can move into this space of the new era that we witnessed when we went to DC, sovereignty, borders, industry, army, into that space.
This is against everything he's ever stood for. He can't do it, can he?
I don't think he can do that. That's not in his DNA. So I think he's really going to struggle to make that transition. You can see the decisions he's made on Chagos Islands, for example.
Yeah, well, I have my views on that.
It must be quite difficult sitting here as a Labour peer, you know.
No, I'm besotted with, you know, the Labour tradition, Ernest Bevin.
No, I know that.
Most, I'm deeply imbued in that. One thing that's been obscured this week, you say what you said, but I have witnessed that there is a commitment to building the armed forces. An industrial strategy was announced on the back of it this week, a very serious document. What I'm saying, Nigel, is what I would take that we both want for for the government to move into the right space.
Well, we'll find out.
What Mandelson represents is the end of an entire era.
We'll find out what happens all in good time in a moment. How about this? There are now more illegal immigrants in Britain who've crossed the English Channel than the entirety of our armed forces. We'll debate that in a moment.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Northern parts of Europe will see any heavy downpours and thunderstorms easing away, though some light showers remaining in places. That's away from Spain and Portugal, though. High pressure dominating, so largely settled here. Plenty of sunshine, though we could see some occasional showers affecting Barcelona. Also some showers across northern parts of Italy, Switzerland and also Austria. But elsewhere across Italy, the Adriatic coastline and across Greece, plenty of sunshine to come. That theme continuing as we head into next week, and temperatures widely in the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening. Tomorrow will be pretty similar to today. We're going to see heavy downpours, but 5 minutes later, the sun may well be out. A gusty wind blowing the heavy showers across the country. And like today, might even be a few thunderstorms around as well. Here's the reason why. Low pressure sitting just to the northwest. It's been a very wet and windy day in the far northwest. The winds will ease a touch through the night, but the rain will persist over the Highlands and the Western Isles. Elsewhere, lots of showers zipping through at the moment, but they will tend to ease from many eastern areas. I think lengthy clear spells here. Showers never too far away from western coasts. Temperature-wise, well, dipping down into single figures for some spots. Fresh but bright start to Friday over the Midlands, much of eastern England and eastern Scotland. Generally a dry, fine start. Plenty of showers, though, in the west, and those showers will simply become more widespread as we go through the day. But as I said, generally a dry, fine start over East Anglia and the Midlands. The showers in West Wales, northwest England, likely to be heavy. Might even get a rumble of thunder again, and the showers moving through Northern Ireland. Again, no parts of the east starting dry, and that east-west split also in evidence across Scotland, with plenty of showers in the west. The wind's not as strong as today, but still a gusty, blusterous day. The showers will, as I say, become more widespread, certainly from late morning onwards. We'll see some over the Midlands and eastern England. Always, though, most frequent in the west, just zipping through on that brisk and gusty wind, making it feel cooler than the numbers would suggest. Temperatures actually close to average for the time of year, but certainly feeling fresher with the wind and when the showers come along. And there'll be more of them on Saturday too. Again, that mixture of bright spells and heavy showers. We may start with some across the southeast on Saturday morning, but again, most of the showers in the west developing more widely through the day. Again, the odd rumble of thunder. Again, temperatures close to average, and then things likely to turn wet and very windy by the time we get to Sunday. Goodbye.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So if you add up all the men and women that are serving in the Army, the Royal Navy, the Air Forces, and you include the reserves, you get to a figure of 180,000 people. But if you add up the number of people who've come into Britain on small boats, you get to 181,000. And that just in the course of the last few years. It is a completely stunning figure. I'm joined down the line by Ivan Sampson, great friend of this programme, immigration lawyer. We were just discussing before we came on, Ivan, that's what we call a killer fact. You know, when people hear something like that, they're absolutely horrified. I'm just listening to this government as it talks about returns deals, etc. Seems to me there's no prospect of anything changing in the short term.
No, I agree. I think these figures are striking and understandably cause concern amongst the public. But what's more worrying, Nigel, is the trend, because these figures over the last 7 years, I think we could see the numbers doubling over the next 3 to 4 years. Because the trend is that we're going to probably get about 50,000 a year. And the Tories, the Conservatives and Labour have been unable to solve this problem. They come up with slogans to appease the public, but really there have been no effective measures to stem the flow of people crossing the channel. But we have to remember, I know there's an issue about 90% of them are male, but look, we are members, Nigel, we're members of the Refugee Convention. We have a legal obligation to consider. We've had these conversations many times, you and I, over the years, about that we need to think about reforming the Refugee Convention. But the way that it stands is that we have to entertain and consider and decide these claims. And unless we decide to do something different and change the law about the way people can claim asylum and who can claim asylum, I'm afraid it's not going to stop.
No, you're right. We have to change the law. Ivan, thank you. He's right, isn't he?
He is right. And not only that, I mean, I've got another stat for you, Nigel.
Go on.
There are more lawyers in this country than there are members of the armed forces as well.
I know, you're everywhere you like.
But, you know, the armed forces, actually, they represent the best of this country, in my view. The duty, service, protection of others, tradition, and so on. Where we are, I absolutely agree with Ivan there, that what really needs to be looked at is the law, but also how it's interpreted. Because part of the problem is the Refugee Convention that Ivan just mentioned as an immigration lawyer, that's actually been around for generations. It's only in recent years...
75 years?
That's right. Post-war. Yeah. And it's only in more recent years that our courts have started to interpret it in this extremely zealous way, this maximalist way, as lawyers say. And that's where it's been going wrong. The convention itself still has the same words to it. It's that it did in the 50s. It's now how it's interpreted. That, together with ECHR, many other problems.
And a lot of that is to do with the Blair government in the late 1990s, getting rid of common law, bringing in human rights, and you agree with all of this, I know you do. You're a great believer in liberty and all the rest of it.
And the ancient constitution.
Yeah, I know. But the problem is, we've got a Prime Minister wedded to human rights law. It's who he is. It's who he's been since the late 1980s, basically. And nothing's going to change. Ivan says the numbers could double. It's just not sustainable anyway. Politically, it's
political reality is that this can't be. I was just thinking, well, what can we do? I don't know what you think, but one of the ideas I just had watching is, well, we could offer them the choice between deportation or conscription. And if they join the army and they serve for 3 years, they get citizenship.
Hang on a second. Hang on. That is bonkers. we could finish up with people who'd served for ISIS in the British Army.
Well, they wouldn't get through. But what I'm saying is that we've got to double the size of our armed forces.
Yeah, OK.
We've got to diminish the number of lawyers. Certainly a decimation.
The two things aren't mutually exclusive.
A decimation of the silk. I mean, one of the things...
But, Maurice, you know, you've spoken before on this programme about the work you do in Grimsby.
Yeah.
And we chatted earlier on today about the work you do in Grimsby. You know, if we said to 16-year-olds, look, here's an opportunity to join the armed forces, do you think they'd do it?
I think they would. I think that the longing for friendship, the longing for adventure, to be part of something, it's the meaninglessness. In Grimsby, there's 14 to 16-year-olds just rolling around on their choppers, nicking some stuff from shops. I mean, they're longing. There's no longer the boats to go out on.
Fish.
We've still got the drill halls. We have to genuinely go out there and conscription, and we've got to lower the age that they can join at 16 into the army.
I totally agree with that. It was the liberal elite that said we mustn't have army careers officers in schools, we mustn't have 16 and 17-year-olds. Right up until the 90s, I think, we actually had 16 and 17-year-olds serving in the first Gulf War. A 16-year-old who actually helped save an American warship, I think I'm right.
Into vocational training for the industry that's coming ahead.
Yeah, what this government's done is taken away the funding for Army Cadet forces at schools.
Well, this has all got to be absolutely... But this decline in army numbers is long-standing.
It is long-standing.
I don't accept this as a party political issue.
No,
I was shocked when we got in and I realised the state of our armed forces. I was genuinely taken aback. It may sound strange, but among certain Labour people, we thought the Conservatives could be trusted on the army. We thought the Conservatives could be trusted on the city. The city is dormant. There's no flow. Right. We've got to restore the historic
I love GBNews because we start off talking about illegal immigration and we end up on conscription. Are you really going to go for conscription? Seriously? Voluntary
well, it's not conscription.
What I'm going to do is what I'm very much arguing for is an aggressive reach out into the deindustrialised towns in schools and say there is a way. There is a way that you can make lifelong friendships. There is a way that you can learn a skill.
I agree.
There is a way that's some meaning and you can serve our country and make it great. This is the way.
And discipline and
all
of that.
good. So we've got to honour, I mean, for me and all the people that I work with, our respect for the armed forces is unquestionable.
I tell you what, there are a lot of people right now watching this, listening in their cars, agreeing with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the way. This is more soldiers, less students. That's
there we go.
By the way, that's the best tradition of the Labour Party post-war as well.
You see, left and right uniting in this most incredible way here on GB News, debate things, and you never.
And today, Nigel, we're honouring Charlie Kirk.
We are certainly honouring Charlie Kirk. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. In a moment, we get a businessman who's come down from Scotland to talk to me. It's yet another absolutely horrendous debanking story wrecking a business. And as you know, I'm probably the most prominent debank person in this country, and I'm going to go on fighting and pressuring for changes to the law. It's not on.
You're quite right.
It's disgusting.
I hate it.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring...
Tonight's show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
I have fought the banks and I have won. But I was lucky because I was in a position where I was able to broadcast to the world what had happened to me. Most businesses, most individuals do not have that right. And we have regularly covered debanking stories on this programme, and we've regularly covered everything that comes under money laundering. Yes, of course, we want to stop criminals laundering money, but actually the legislation that we've got finishes up actually victimising good people. I'm joined in the studio by Kevin Mackey, former director of Mackey Motors. Kevin, a business that had been going for some years.
Yeah, my parents started the business, Nigel, in the 70s. Very successful business. We employed 75 people, had won many national awards. We've been presented with 3 global awards by Renault in Paris over the years. So yeah, whatsoever for anything other than us to play with an open book. We'd done nothing wrong at all.
And so the bank reports you to the authorities?
Yeah, so we didn't know what had happened. We got a termination letter came through from the bank on the 9th of December. Nobody had talked to us for 2 weeks. Termination letter came through saying we were terminating you, basically debanking you on 7 days' notice with no reason required to be given. They wouldn't talk to us.
And this was, but they were accusing you of laundering money, basically.
They'd had a suspicion that we had laundered money, and yet we now led to believe that they had reported that on the 23rd of November, and 7 days had passed. We had never been investigated by the NCA and never been asked any questions.
And once you've been reported to the National Crime Agency, getting a new bank account with anybody else is impossible.
More or less impossible, yeah, correct. Yeah.
So what happened after that? You just had to cease business, or?
Yeah, so we kept trying to get somebody to engage. I wrote to them. I'd said, look, you've called this wrong. You know, please engage. Please give me a chance. I'll send you any information you want. Our auditors will send you whatever you want. Please engage. They refused to talk. They actually refused me to be on our premises when they came to do a stock audit. There was nothing missing, you know. The RCI was paid all the money they were due, and basically destroyed the business overnight.
And 75 people lost their jobs.
So I moved fairly quickly to get a friendly dealer because I could see that if they didn't give us a supply, we had an issue. So this was probably a week before Christmas, because bearing in mind that our sales executives were commission-based, so they had to be selling. So when the supply was cut off, our technicians in the workshop needed to be repairing vehicles, and they were bonus-driven. So they basically strangled the business. So I was left with no option, basically, to fire sale it to protect the jobs.
And in the end, the National Crime Agency come back and say nothing to see here?
Nothing. They've never approached me once. They've never.
Well, if they found something wrong, you'd have known about it, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
You would have. And this is... Kevin, one thing I've learned about this, for a business or an individual, had you ever considered, I know, being wise after the event and all that, but had you ever considered having other bank accounts? I mean, you were operating here through RCI Bank. Had you considered having other bank accounts with different firms?
So, Nigel, to be quite clear, we had a Bank of Scotland account. We had a relationship with Santander Finance. We had a relationship with Northridge Finance. None of these people had any issues whatsoever. But the fact of the matter was nobody would talk to us. So if the bank had wanted to terminate us...
Because you were under investigation by the National Crime Agency?
Well, that was what they assumed, but we weren't, you know.
That would be the reason. That would be the reason. That is why people get shut down. And these money laundering laws, you know, they're designed to stop crime, but it ends up penalising people like you. Whilst we see Turkish barber shops springing up in high streets, Jacob, all over. I mean, you know, Jacob's worked in financial services. These stories are horrid.
They're terrible. And the law is awful. I used to give in my own firm a money laundering lecture.
And what I would say was really straightforward. If you've got any suspicion, however bogus, report it, because if you don't and you're wrong, you face years in prison. If you report it, all the responsibility is passed from you onto somebody else. And therefore, you've got a system where they get tens of thousands of reports every year of money laundering, the overwhelming majority of which are false.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, I think it's 7 years in prison.
Yeah.
So you feel, on the other side of it, that you must report on the slightest, most bogus suspicion.
The banks
that's what the banks do.
And so that's why they looked at something in Kevin's business, they didn't understand it, alarm bells went off, they report, they've covered their backs.
They've covered up their backs.
And his business closes. I mean,
and it's dreadful, and it's the law that is so bad. It's all, of course, European law.
But because as soon as you say, we've got to look at the money laundering regulations and make them more sensible, you're accused of being on the side of the criminals. It's very, very difficult, but it does have to happen. Kevin, what have you restarted in business, or what have you done?
No, we're still fighting, Nigel. So we've issued a new claim in court. We're bringing Renault and Nissan into court for the first time. With RCI named as third party. So we're still fighting it. It's been a hard 4 years, and I have to say, like, the system is broken. One quick example I'll give you. RCI Bank were due us money for vehicles that we'd supplied to customers, and they hadn't paid us. I went to the FCA and said to them, we've got an issue. They said, go to the police. I went to the police. The police said, go to the FCA.
Yeah, I know.
I went back to the FCA and they said, go to Citizen Advice.
FCA, waste of space. They're supposed to be the regulator. They're supposed to be on your side. They're not. Kevin, thank you for coming and sharing the story. It's an awful story. Sadly, there are quite a lot of Kevins out there. This has happened to so many people. And since my debanking, I've been written to by so many of you. If I can help Kevin or anybody else, if I'm in a position to, I certainly will. Jacob, in a moment, will be giving a State of the Nation dramatic day. Tragedy with Charlie Kirk.
Tragedy with Charlie Kirk, and I will be talking about that and politics in America and whether the tone of political debate is affecting us and is making things more dangerous in a week when John McDonnell accuses, I think, you and your party.
Yes.
But the one thing I have in common with Donald Trump is that David Lammy has accused both of us of being Nazis. And this sort of abuse that's circulated, does that make the thing worse?
And Mandy gone.
And I've got to talk about that, of course, because actually the question is the judgment of Keir Starmer. Everyone knew that Mandelson had a bad reputation. He'd already resigned twice. He was known to be a friend of Epstein. What happened with the security vetting? Because ministers aren't vetted. Ambassadors, even if they're former ministers, are properly, thoroughly vetted.
Jacob,
the Prime Minister would have known, and he ignored it. And has he got no moral compass?
Well, there you are. There you are. Jacob will give you all of that in a moment. I'm off. See you next Tuesday. Have a lovely, lovely weekend.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening. Tomorrow will be pretty similar to today. We're going to see heavy downpours, but 5 minutes later, the sun may well be out. A gusty wind blowing the heavy showers across the country. And like the northwest, it's been a very wet and windy day in the far northwest. The winds will ease a touch through the night, but the rain will persist over the Highlands and the Western Isles. Elsewhere, lots of showers zipping through at the moment, but they will tend to ease for many eastern areas. I think lengthy clear spells here. Showers never too far away from western coasts. Temperature-wise, well, dipping down into single figures for some spots. Fresh but bright start to Friday over the Midlands, much of eastern England and eastern Scotland. Generally a dry, fine start. Plenty of showers, though, in the west, and those showers will simply become more widespread as we go through the day. But as I said, generally a dry, fine start over East Anglia and the Midlands. The showers in West Wales, North West